You wake up every morning believing you're the author of your life, that your thoughts are your own, that your desires are natural, that who you are is a reflection of what you've chosen to become. But something doesn't quite add up, does it? You try to be better, calmer, stronger, more successful, but you still fall into the same traps. You still feel like something is watching you from the inside, like you're moving through your own life, wearing someone else's skin. There's a strange pull in the background. It doesn't speak in sentences, it doesn't use logic, it just steers, subtly, quietly, like a shadow with its hand on the wheel. And sometimes when everything falls apart, when you lash out without warning, when you break something precious for no reason, when you sabotage the very thing you said you wanted, you hear yourself say it, "I don't know what got into me." But Jung knew. He knew exactly what gets into you, because it never left. He spent his life mapping that hidden layer of the mind, not the part that calculates or conforms, but the part that dreams, distorts desires, the part that remembers what you've forgotten. He called it the unconscious, not just your personal history, but something far older, a deep well of memory, myth, and instinct, something collective, something primal, something alive. You don't control it, you don't even see it, but it sees you. It shapes your attractions, it writes your emotional blueprints. It hands you masks and convinces you they're your face. And the most unsettling part? It often knows what you truly want before you do. You may believe you're living freely, but freedom isn't the absence of chains. It's the presence of awareness. And right now, something in you is waking up. A quiet voice, not loud, not dramatic, just clear. It says, "This isn't who I am, but I don't know who I am either." That's where Jung begins, not with answers, but with the courage to finally ask the right question. Who is living my life when I'm not awake inside it? There's a pain you know too well, not the kind that screams, but the kind that lingers, quiet, familiar, always waiting just beneath the surface. You try to move forward, you try to grow, but somehow, you always end up back here. The same arguments, the same kind of person, the same emptiness you even after the next success, the next escape, the next disguise. You've called it a phase, blamed the timing, told yourself this won't happen again. But it does, again and again. And part of you already knows, this isn't just circumstance, this is something else. You work harder, you stay busy, you smile more than you feel. You keep hoping that if you just fix the outside, the noise inside will quiet down. But it doesn't. It never really does. You carry yourself like someone in control. But underneath that, there's a low hum of confusion, a sense that something essential is off. And the strangest thing is, you can't even name it. There's no obvious wound, no clear trauma, just this quiet ache that follows you through the days. Sometimes it speaks in the form of self-sabotage. Sometimes it shows up as numbness, that strange detachment in moments that should feel full. And sometimes, it's just a silence, a subtle disconnection from your own life. No one else sees it. They see the version of you that's been carefully constructed, the capable one, the strong one, the one who always finds a way. But inside, you're still looking for the way back. Back to something real, something you didn't have to perform. Here's the part no one tells you. You're not just tired, you're disconnected from yourself, from something buried beneath the mask. And the longer you avoid it, the more it becomes the invisible architect of your suffering. This isn't bad luck. It's not a character flaw. It's not the universe working against you. It's the unconscious trying to wake you up. And everything you've been taught to ignore is you. Maybe that ache, the one you carry but can't name, isn't just emotional. Maybe it's psychological, but not in the way textbooks describe. Not as something broken, but something buried. Carl Gustav Jung understood that. He wasn't interested in symptoms. He wasn't trying to fix people or teach them how to function better in a sick society. He was after something else entirely. He wanted to understand why we suffer, and why most of us suffer in silence, even when everything seems fine on the surface. Jung didn't look for answers in behavior. He looked deeper, into dreams, into myths, into symbols that have haunted humanity for thousands of years. Because beneath your individual story, beneath your personal wounds and childhood memories, Jung discovered something far more ancient, a shared space, a collective memory, a psychic ocean that exists beneath the mind of every human being. He called it the collective unconscious. Not a metaphor, not poetry, but a living structure, shaped by generations of fear, desire, love, power, and longing. It's where the archetypes live, universal patterns of being, the roles we fall into without knowing why, the emotions that surge without permission, the faces we keep meeting in different people, lifetime after lifetime. You think your fear is personal, you think your loneliness is unique, but what if it's older than you? What if it's been passed down like a psychic inheritance, waiting for you to feel it again? This is what Jung saw. A hidden system operating beneath our everyday life, a world of symbols, instincts, and forgotten truths. And at the center of that world, he found something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The shadow. Not a villain, not a curse, but the part of you were told to hide. The part you've spent years pretending isn't there. Anger, jealousy, pride, shame, all the things you've pushed away to be accepted, they didn't disappear. They went underground, and they've been shaping your life ever since. There are parts of you you've never allowed to exist, not because they weren't real, but because they weren't acceptable. So you push them down, bit by bit, year after year. The anger you weren't allowed to express, the sadness you were told was weakness, the selfishness you buried in order to be loved, the hunger for attention you've masked as humility, the jealousy you've renamed as concern, the pride you disguised as politeness. They didn't vanish. They just retreated into the dark, that place inside you where all the unwelcome truths are sent, not destroyed, just hidden. Silent but not still. Jung called it the shadow, not because it is evil, but because it exists outside the light of your awareness. Everything you suppress, everything you exile in order to be good, becomes part of this hidden self. And here's the part no one tells you. The more you hide it, the more it begins to act without your permission. Not with words, but with consequences. It shows up when you snap at someone who didn't deserve it, when you sabotage the relationship that finally felt safe, when you shrink away from success right as it arrives, and you don't know why. You just say, "That's not me." But it is you. It's the part of you you refuse to meet. The shadow is patient. It doesn't shout. It waits, and when it acts, it often wears your face. You'll see it in the people you can't stand, the ones you judge too quickly, the ones you call selfish, manipulative, arrogant. But look closer. Often they're carrying something you've disowned in yourself. The shadow doesn't only live inside you, it leaks into your projections, your relationships, your fears, your patterns. And so you relive the same story, with different people, different cities, different names, but always the same ending. Not because you're cursed, not because you're broken, but because what you've rejected within you is still alive. And it's still asking to be seen. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." He was right. Because what you don't face in yourself doesn't disappear. It becomes the architect of your suffering. And the more you insist that you're only light, the more violently your darkness will try to be heard. The shadow isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to return to you. Not to take control, but to become whole. You've been taught to conquer your darkness, to fight it, rise above it, silence it. But what if the answer was never in battle, but in reunion? You are not meant to be a half-being, polished on the outside, fractured within. What you repress doesn't die. It waits, and within that waiting is energy. There is power in the shadow, but only when you stop running from it. Because that rage you buried, it's the same fire that could have set boundaries, the same force that could have protected your soul before the world taught you to make yourself small. That pride you silenced, it once knew your worth before you learned to confuse humility with self-erasure. That jealousy you're ashamed of, it might be a signal, not of malice, but of a longing you've never had the courage to name. The shadow holds your discarded truths, and to face them is not weakness. It's a kind of return. Jung didn't want you to destroy your darkness. He wanted you to integrate it, to sit with it, to listen, to let it speak the parts of you were never allowed to say aloud. That's what he called individuation. Not a spiritual trend, not becoming your best self, but becoming your whole self. It's the slow, quiet process of stitching your soul back together. Not perfection, but honesty. Not light without shadow, but light that understands its own origin. And no, it doesn't happen all at once. It breaks you in pieces, then invites you to gather them with gentleness, again and again. When the conscious mind sleeps, something older wakes up. It doesn't speak in words. It doesn't follow logic. It doesn't care about your to-do list or your carefully crafted image. It speaks in symbols, in fragments, in scenes that make no sense, but leave you haunted. A house that crumbles, a staircase that never ends, teeth falling from your mouth, a stranger wearing your face. You tell yourself it's just a dream, just nonsense, but your soul doesn't waste breath, even when it whispers in riddles. Carl Jung understood this. He didn't see dreams as noise. He saw them as messengers, sent from the unconscious, carrying pieces of you that you've left behind. Dreams aren't random. They're precise. They show you what your conscious self refuses to see, the imbalance you won't admit, the wound you've named normal, the desire you've buried beneath obligation and pride. They don't offer answers. They offer direction. The snake isn't just a snake. The house isn't just a house. The forest isn't just scenery. Each image is a mirror, showing you not what you know, but what you need to know. A ladder might mean transformation. A locked door might be the part of you you've sealed shut. A mirror might be the face you've forgotten was yours. And here's what most people never realize. The soul speaks constantly. You just haven't been taught its language. We scroll past meaning. We medicate discomfort. We ignore the symbols that rise each night, asking only to be seen. And the more we ignore them, the further we drift from ourselves, from our center, from that silent compass that knows what words can't explain. You don't need to interpret every dream. You don't need to solve the riddle in one sitting. But if something inside you keeps returning, a shape, a scene, a feeling, it's not coincidence, it's your unconscious trying to speak the only way it knows how, through image, through mystery, through what we once called myth. Have you ever watched yourself from a distance, in a conversation, in a moment of anger, in a decision that didn't feel fully yours, and thought, why did I just do that? It's as if something else took over. Not unfamiliar, but not fully you. Carl Jung had a word for that. Archetypes, not personalities, not habits, but deeper forms, psychic blueprints, ancient patterns that live beneath your identity, shaping how you think, feel, love, and break. They're not ideas you learned. They were already inside you when you were born. The hero, the wounded child, the caregiver, the trickster, the wise one, the shadow. You don't play these roles. They play through you. And the unsettling truth is, you can spend your entire life being guided by an archetype without ever knowing it. You try to fix everyone around you, even when it destroys you. That might not be love. It might be the unhealed hero, trying to earn worth through suffering. You seek constant approval. You fear being abandoned. You mold yourself to fit what others want. That's not just insecurity. That's the wounded child, still searching for safety in the eyes of others. You chase power, control, status, but feel empty the moment you get them. That might be the shadow, trying to prove it doesn't exist by overcompensating in plain sight. These are not random patterns. They are psychic scripts, and when you're unconscious of them, they possess you. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way, but quietly. Through your choices, your attractions, your repeated endings. You say, "This is just who I am." But often it's just a mask you've worn so long, you've forgotten it was a mask. But here's the difference. The archetypes are not your enemies. They're not here to punish you. They're here to teach you. And once you begin to see them, to notice who's speaking inside you, who's making the choices, who's reaching for that person, who's afraid to speak that truth, then something shifts. You stop being a character in someone else's mythology and start becoming the author of your own. We live in a world that gave us everything except ourselves. Constant access, infinite information, endless distraction, but no direction. We are more connected than ever, and yet more fragmented, more visible, and yet more unseen. We perform, we consume, we adapt, but somewhere beneath all of that, something begins to ache. A quiet question. Not loud enough to interrupt your day, but steady enough to follow you into the night. Who am I, really? Modern life was supposed to free us. Instead, it trained us to escape from silence, from stillness, from anything that feels too real to scroll past. And while the surface keeps us busy, the soul begins to whisper louder, through anxiety, through burnout, through the sense that no amount of productivity can make you feel whole again. Jung saw this coming, long before algorithms, before curated identities, before the rise of performance over presence. He wrote about it, the collapse of meaning. The inflation of the persona, the slow death of the inner world in a culture obsessed with the outer one. He saw that when we abandon the shadow, it doesn't go away, it goes public. We project it onto others. We fight battles that belong to our own reflection. He saw that when we mock our dreams, we sever the bridge to our unconscious. And without that bridge, we wander, no compass, no story, no self. Jung wasn't offering comfort. He wasn't offering motivation. He offered something far more dangerous, a path inward, a map of the psyche for a world that forgot how to listen to its own soul. He wasn't a therapist for peaceful times. He was a guide for collapse, for now. Because when everything outside starts to lose meaning, titles, roles, rewards, the only place left to go is within. And what you find there won't be easy. It won't be pretty, but it will be yours. You've spent most of your life trying to become someone likable, someone stable, someone strong, but in the process you forgot something far more important. Who you already are. Not the version others approved of. Not the persona you've rehearsed for years. The real you. The one that was buried under expectations, shamed into silence, edited out of every room that didn't feel safe. And now, you're starting to feel it again. That quiet unrest, that subtle pulling inward. This isn't coincidence. This isn't content. It's a call, a soft one, the kind that doesn't demand but waits. Carl Jung believed there are no true accidents, only moments when the unconscious breaks through, trying to be seen. So maybe this isn't just a video. Maybe it's one of those moments, a rupture in the performance, a mirror in the noise. Not to teach you anything new, but to remind you of what you already knew before the forgetting, that your pain has meaning, that your patterns have roots, that your inner world is not a weakness, it's the only place you'll ever truly meet yourself. No, you don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to decode every dream or confront every fear, but maybe you take one honest breath. Maybe you admit quietly that something in you is waking up. And once it does, you can't go back to sleep. Not really, because now you've seen the thread. And even if it disappears again into the dark, you'll always know it's there, waiting, just beneath the surface. If something in you shifted, even slightly, don't rush to explain it. Just pause and notice. Maybe it was a sentence, a symbol, a silence between the words. Whatever it was, that's where your work begins. You don't have to share, but if you feel something rising, name it. Not for anyone else, for you. What part of you have you been avoiding? What pattern keeps repeating? What truth have you known, but never let yourself say aloud? Leave it below, in your language, in your timing. Because this is how the unconscious becomes conscious. Not all at once, but in small, honest moments, spoken into the dark. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. The forgetting is over. You're already waking up. Keep going. The next step is already waiting for you, right here, in the next video.